After managing people for over 13 years, I discovered one communication error that all managers do that makes their team ignore them completely. So in this video, I'll show you the simple changes you can make right now to earn your team's trust and finally be taken seriously as a manager. But before I show you how to do that, there's one mistake almost every new manager makes that instantly shapes how their team sees them. And if you don't fix it, what I'm about to show you just won't work. So what is this massive mistake? Well, imagine this. You go to a new doctor and before you even finish explaining your symptoms, they do this.
Doc, I just have the worst headache. Yeah, that's great. Anyways, we're gonna get you on 10 cc's of amoxicillin, we're gonna go ahead and get you on some Zofran, and we're gonna get you the COVID-19 vaccine shot.
No questions, no understanding, just changing everything like they already know what's best. How would you feel? Probably like this doctor has no clue what they're doing, and that's exactly what happens when new managers walk in and start making big changes without first understanding how things actually work. It's tempting to set the tone early by fixing what looks broken, but if you don't first take the time to listen and learn, your team won't trust your decisions because you're just like that doctor who didn't take time to understand the situation. And once you lose that trust, it's nearly impossible to earn back. But if you do what I'm about to show you, you'll have your team's backing from the jump. So in your first 30 days as a new manager, here's the blueprint to earn your team's trust. Be in discovery mode. Simply listen and learn. You're paying attention to how the team members interact with each other and who goes above and beyond. You should be thinking about who are the star players, who are the role players, and who probably need to be benched. You also need to be building leadership capital, or in other words, learn about your team professionally and personally to gain their trust and some credibility with them by showing you care about them as people. This is going to come back around when you're asking people for help because they're usually more willing to help if they have that relationship with you. And finally, ask yourself, what is already working? As they say, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. Now, I know what you're thinking, so I'd just sit there awkwardly for 30 days? No, you ask the right questions. But how do you make sure that you're actually asking the right questions? That's where this free tool comes in. I built an AI bot called BashBot that's a literal cheat code for new managers. It'll instantly give you the leadership answers you're dying to know. It's trained specifically to help new managers from tanking their careers. It's free, it's smart, and it's gonna put me out of business. But hey, as long as it helps you. But once you've made it through your first 30 days, there's one more mistake you need to fix before you start building real respect with your team. Because even if your team sees you as a great leader, if your boss doesn't take you seriously, your team won't either. So what is this critical mistake that most managers make, and how do you avoid it? Well, there's actually two parts to this mistake. The first part is simple, and that's trying to be a kiss-ass with your boss and never challenging them. If you try to always be nice to your boss and be a yes man or woman, your boss won't fully respect you and neither will your team. But being professionally confrontational with your boss is not easy, and it probably puts a pit in your stomach right now just thinking about it. So how do you challenge your boss in a way that earns respect from your boss and your team? I think the best way to show you this is by looking at some of my new favorite types of viral shorts. The ones where the airplane pilots and the air traffic controllers get into arguments.
Maybe we need to talk about that some more because you're the first controller in 15 years that's ever said that.
At first I was laughing when I heard them give a little sass back and forth to each other, but then it kind of got me thinking, and it made me a little uncomfortable when you realize the people keeping you alive on a flight don't always see eye to eye. While the pilot is technically in charge of the plane, the person on the ground has a clearer view of everything happening. A good ground control operator guides the pilot not by being confrontational, but influencing their decisions. And that's exactly what great managers do with upper management. But here's where most managers go wrong. They assume their boss has all the answers and blindly follow orders, or they push too hard in certain areas and get shut down. Both of these mistakes make leadership ignore you. So how do you influence leadership to get them to respect and listen to you? Well, all you gotta do is give them a little tug. You probably assume tug stands for tempt, understate, and get buy-in, right? No? What were you thinking? If you want your boss to support your decisions, trust your judgment, and back you in meetings, this is how you're gonna give them a tug. Tempt them with curiosity using data for what it is you want to make a change for. It would sound something like, hey, I noticed something interesting in the data that shows we might be leaving money on the table. Then understate your position to make it a suggestion rather than a demand. If you can spin it as a benefit for them, it's even better. It would sound something like, hey, this could be nothing, but making this small tweak in our process could improve our efficiency and our budget would look great when the audits come around. Then, finally, you want to get their buy-in by letting them think it was their idea. At the end of all this, you're going to ask them something like, so what's your take on all this? And to be clear, giving them a tug isn't manipulation, it's persuasion done right. Use it and your boss will start supporting your decisions without even realizing you're the one that led them there. But most managers make the respect of thinking their boss's respect is all that they need. At the end of the day, you need both your boss and your team's respect, and to do that, you need to stop being nice to your team. So how is not being nice to your team supposed to earn their respect? Getting your team to respect you is tough, almost as tough as making these videos, so subscribe maybe? But seriously, most managers think being a nice boss will make your team want to listen to you. But what if I told you trying to be too nice could actually cost you everything? Well, that's exactly what happened to me when I cost my company $1 million trying to be the nice guy. So how did that happen? Well, early in my career, I once got too close to an employee. His name was Phil. I felt bad for him. He was divorced and living hours away from his ex and his kids, and all he talked about was trying to save money to see his kids. He had a tendency to be super helpful and on board with anything I asked of him. We also had a lot in common, like rock climbing, and we would go climb on the weekends. But the problem was, every day at work when he would go take his lunch break, I noticed that he didn't clock out. Not knowing any better, I let it slide because I knew it would make him overtime. The company that I used to work for didn't pay well, so it felt like the right thing to do. At first, it seemed harmless, but then Phil pushed it further. One day, I found out he had been stealing from the company. And of course, I had to fire him. A few weeks later, he hit us with a class action lawsuit. Because the lunch break issue was actually happening not just in my store, but every store, it cost the company over $1 million. This was a low point in my career because I knew being so close to him is what blinded my judgment. And I let things slide that I should have stopped before it snowballed into such a massive problem. And this can happen to any manager when they get too close to their employees. So how do you avoid this $1 million mistake? What I realized is that being liked and being respected are not the same thing. Had I focused on holding my team accountable and being friendly but not friends, I could have avoided this expensive disaster. There's honestly two key lessons I learned from all this. And lesson number one being, you need to set boundaries. If being close to someone makes it harder to have a tough conversation, rethink how close you're getting. It's okay to be friendly, but find your friends and relationships outside of work to make things less complicated. Don't hang out with your employees outside of work on a regular basis. A one-off every so often is fine, but partying every weekend with them can be problematic. And lesson number two, be consistent and hold people accountable. When you hold people accountable the same way across the board, you're going to earn your team's respect because they know you're looking out for what's right, not who's right. Had I focused on making sure everyone was following the clock out procedures for lunches, it would have made a massive difference. But here's the real challenge. How do you hold your team accountable when half the time employees play dumb to stay out of trouble? If you've ever heard the phrase, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, you know exactly what I mean. Well, if you use this next insanely valuable technique I'm about to show you, it'll make keeping people accountable a breeze. So what's the easiest way to keep people accountable? When an employee plays dumb about their responsibilities, it's frustrating. And as a manager, it's not just annoying, but it can completely wreck your credibility. That's why I developed a system where I literally don't have to worry about these types of situations anymore. So how do you do this? Well, to explain how this works, I want you to imagine you're at In-N-Out and you order a double-double, no pickles, and animal-style fries. Ugh, In-N-Out's the best. I'll fight anybody on that. They hand you back a receipt for your pickleless burger and fries, and you're excited to get that delicious burger in your belly. But when the food comes out, your burger, it's loaded with pickles. You tell the cashier, but they don't remember you saying that. What's gonna be the first thing that they ask? Do you have your receipt? Because that receipt removes all debate. Now, imagine you assign a task to an employee thinking you were perfectly clear, and then 2 weeks later, they've either done the wrong thing or nothing at all. And then when you call them out, they say, wait, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. And just like the burger, if you don't have a receipt, it's their word against yours. This is why so many managers lose their team's respect without even realizing it. Because when expectations aren't written down, it becomes impossible to hold people accountable. And when your team knows there's no proof of what you said, guess what? Unfortunately, they'll use that to their advantage. So how do you make sure you keep receipts with employees? Number 1, get everything in writing. If it's important, put it in an email or a task tracker. No paper trail equals no proof. I personally love emails because I can always refer back to it whenever I need. Number 2, use deadlines and success criterias. Don't just assign a task, clarify what done actually looks like. If it's completely spelled out on paper, it's hard to play dumb. And number 3, make expectations public. Use team dashboards or shared docs so no one can claim that they didn't know. If it's out there for everyone to see, there's no gray areas. Once you do this, accountability skyrockets, excuses disappear, and your credibility shoots through the roof. But expecting your team to be accountable only works if you are. So make sure you always follow through, admit when you messed up, and don't shift blame onto others. But here's the catch. If your voice wobbles because of nerves, your team's trust crumbles. So in this next video, I'll show you how to speak like a CEO, even if your confidence is at 0.